This is lesson 1.10, Verbal Translations. The objective of this lesson is for you to be able to identify key operation words so that you can translate verbal phrases into written algebraic expressions or equations. Before we begin, let's see how many of these words you already know. Right now, I want you to push pause and write down as many words that you can think of that are written out that mean addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, equal, or something that indicates that you're about ready to use an exponent. For example, addition. What's a word that you know that means addition? Well, obviously everybody knows the word add, or any word, a part of the form add. So that might be one of the words on your list for addition. So like I said, go ahead and push pause, and I want you to come up as many words for each one of these operations as you can possibly think of. Then push play when you're ready to continue. Alright, let's see how you did. So as I'm going over these, any words that I write down that you don't already have on your list, then I want you to add to your list. And I'm going to categorize the words that we're using. First, I'm going to start off with some of the basic words that you probably already have on your list. Plus for addition. You've used that since elementary school. Minus for subtraction. Or maybe take away. For multiplication, you see the word times. And of course, for division, we use the word divide. For the equal sign, you've seen the word equals, obviously, or maybe the word total. Now, if you have the word total underneath the addition category, yes, when they say what is the total of something or another, then that's usually meaning addition as well. But as we go further along, that addition of it, that total is actually that equal sign. So let's make sure you move that word total underneath equals. Alright, so let's see how far you've gotten. If you don't already have those, put them down. Now, as you progress in school and maybe started solving some word story problems, you have used or might have put on your list some of the most frequent used words in mathematics. Sum, which means addition. Difference. By the way, another word for difference is distance, because the distance of any two places is their difference in their location. Product. And for division, the quotient. So if you see the word sum, that means the answer to an addition problem. Difference is the answer to subtraction. The answer to multiplication is called the product, and the answer to division is called the quotient. If you do not already know these words, then I suggest making some flashcards to start memorizing them. These are the most frequently used words for all four of those operations. Now for exponents, for equals, you're going to see the word is in your story problems, or any tense of the word is. For example, was and were for past tense, are. And then for exponents, you see the words raised to the whatever power, and they use raised to the power of whatever. So they give you a number. So these are the most frequently used words in mathematics. The next type of words I want to go over with you are the ones that actually tell you not only the operation, but how much. And they don't say it in the word, or they don't put the number in the problem. For example, the word double. Double means to multiply. But do you know what you multiply to get a double of something? Another word that tells you what to multiply is the word triple and twice. So I call these my red flag words. You need to red flag any of these words. If you see them, they will not write down, or they do not have to write down a number in the story problem. The word itself actually tells you what to multiply by. For example, if you were to double something, what number would you multiply by? You would multiply by 2. If you're going to double something, you multiply it by 2. How about triple? You multiply it by 3 times 3. How about twice? Times 2 again. Now, remember, we're not going to use the x to say multiplication, so how would we show in algebra that's something you would multiply by 2, or multiply by 3, or multiply by 2? You would instead write the number in front of what you're multiplying. We don't know what the number is that we're multiplying, so I'm just going to use the letter x as our variable. 2x means I'm going to double the number. 3x means I'm going to triple the number. And 2x again, or twice. So it means to multiply by 2. In division, we also have words that are red flag words that tell us what we're going to divide by. For example, the word half. When you see the word half in a story problem, what number are you going to divide by? 2. Whatever the number they give you, you're going to divide it by 2. They don't have to tell you divide by 2. The word half implies it. Do you know what word is used to mean divide by 3? It's a third of something. If you see the word third, that means you have to divide it by 3. Here's a harder one. What about 4? What word means divide by 4? Best way I can think of to help you remember this word is think of a dollar bill. How many, if you were to divide a dollar by 4, what would you get? A quarter, wouldn't you? Yeah. So that's where the word quarter comes from. It's 1/4 of a dollar, or a dollar divided by 4. So a quarter of anything is whatever number you're given, you divide it by 4. Here's, how about divided by 5? It's a fifth. As you go further along in your numbers, when you see th at the end of a word, then it's going to be division, and you're dividing by, so a fifth, a sixth, a seventh, an eighth. It means you're dividing by 5, 6, 7, and 8. Here's the one I was going to tell you about. This is a toughie. What word indicates that you divide by 100? Think you know this one? Percent. Percent is a quantity out of 100. So whatever the number is, if they say 30%, then you would take 30 and divide it by 100. Let's jump over to exponents. What are some red flag words that mean to raise to the second power? You've probably heard this word before. Squared. If you ever see something that says squared, that means you're taking it to the power of 2. Do you know what means to the power of 3 or to the third power? It's cubed. Square and cube. Now don't get these confused with square root or the cube root of something. Remember, a root is a radical sign, not an exponent. Alright, so those are the red flagged words. The words that mean what you're either multiplying, dividing, or raising the power to by. The next group of words I want to go over with you are the ones that are often used in word problems that deal with money. So I'm going to start using Greek for money. More and more than. And there's a big difference between more and more than. So when you write those two words, I want you to double underline that word than, because it's going to mean something different. Anytime you use the word than in a story problem, it does mean something. It's kind of tricky. So let me give you an example of the word more and how you would see that in a money problem. Let's say my son mowed somebody's front yard and they paid him $10, but they gave him $5 more to also weed whack. Okay, so how would you write that expression? It's 10 plus 5. But if I said my older son got paid $10 more than my younger son, that would be 5 plus 10. Listen to how I worded that problem again. My older son received 10 more than my younger son, who received 5. Even though in my story, or what I'm saying, the 10 comes before the 5, look at the expression that I wrote down. The 10 is written after or at the end. So whenever you see the word than, you need to hold that thought and write it on the end. Now, you're not going to see too many of these with addition. We mostly will see this with subtraction, so I'm going to show you those subtraction words that also use the same principle here. Less and less than. So let me give you examples of less and less than. If I told you that I went to Kroger and they had soup on sale for $2 less than what they had it at Marsh at $4, you would write the expression 4 minus 2. It's 2 less. But if I said less than, I'm not sure if I said that right before, but you get the idea. If I said I found it for $2 less, then you just subtract the 2. But if I said that Kroger's was $4 less than Marsh, then I'd write 2 minus 4, and you would subtract it. Now, this might be a bad example because if we're talking about money and if you use your integer rules, if I take 2 minus 4, the answer would be negative 2, and 4 minus 2 is a positive 2. Totally two different answers. Where when we had our addition, 10 plus 5 is 15, and 5 plus 10 is also 15. So occasionally when we use more and more than, if we accidentally forget to write it on the end, we may or may not get the problem still wrong. But with subtraction, the word less, if we put the than on it, it makes a huge difference in your final answer, and you will not get the right answer. Let's look at some other words. Lower, lower than, fewer, fewer than. So those words, like it was 2 degrees lower than yesterday's temperature, or he had $5 fewer than somebody else, so you would have to hold that thought and throw it on the end. Let me erase some of this so I can fit some more words down. There's a difference between some and some of. Get the next little parenthesis there for you. Hold on. There we go. Oops. Try to get. I'm trying here. Hold on. There we go. All right. It was no win here. But it says some of. When you see the word of next to the word some, then that means you need to use parentheses. Usually you're going to have to take an addition and do something with it later on. So whenever you see some just by itself, you will not need parentheses. But if you see some of, you do need to put parentheses around the numbers that you're told to add together. And sometimes in combination with this, it'll say the sum of 6 and 2. The word and also implies addition, so 6 plus 2. Oftentimes you'll see like 2 times the sum of 6 and 2. So what they mean by that is that you not only are adding 6 plus 2 together, but you're also taking that quantity and multiplying it by 2. Okay, so that is read 2 times the sum of, and then we have that parentheses, 6 plus 2. Another word for addition that you might see is combined, but it's not that often. But combined, obviously, you're putting a couple things together. And I don't want to leave off the word left for subtraction. How many did they have left? Again, it's probably a more basic word that means subtraction, but just in case you might still see it today, the word left should indicate subtraction. In multiplication, you're going to see the word per, or for each, or for every. And these are also always used with money. If you think of what you're paying per each item or for each item, these are all examples of price. Oh, here I put the parentheses around the word sum of so I can give you some more word. So go ahead and do that in your notes around the word sum of. Put parentheses around it so you remember that you need to use parentheses for those. And so for that multiplication, when they ever talk about the price of something, the price per item, the price for each item, the word price, that lets you know that that's a multiplication. And the same thing when you get paid, the rate in which you get paid is a multiplication. You get paid $10 for every hour, that's your rate. So you would multiply 10 times however many hours you worked. Another word in money that we use to mean equals is yields. And I guess I skipped over division, the word split. For example, they split the bill. If you get a story problem where they talk about people splitting the bill, it's usually like Sam went to the restaurant with his 2 other friends and they split the bill. Be careful with that, because you can't forget to include the person that also went with them. So when you see the number 2 maybe in the story problem for us, 2 friends, don't jump to conclusions and divide the number by 2, because you can't forget the person that they went with, Sam in this case. So you would divide by 3. So be careful when you see that word split. And for exponents, it's not that this is going to necessarily, there's a formula with exponents for the word interest, so you know if you have a story problem that talks about interest, you're going to have an exponent somewhere in the problem. Alright, so take some time right now and make sure you get all of these words on your list, and maybe go back over with a highlighter. Use one color for those red flag words to remind yourself, oh, these are the words I need to remember, because they're not going to write another number in the story problem. They're going to imply that you already know what number to use. And then those green words that you're going to have in all those money problems. Okay? And I'd strongly recommend to make some flashcards to categorize them, these words, so that you know, okay, is it addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, an equal sign, or an exponent on these. So study your words. If you turn to the next page, I have a little game for you to help practice using those words and knowing which operations to use. In this game, you're trying to find out the magic number at the very end. So let's start at the top, and they tell you start with the number 6, and we're going to read each line and apply it to the previous number. For example, if we start with the number 6, our first instruction says to double the start number. What's the key word, operation word, in that sentence? Double the start number. Do you recognize the word double? I'm going to highlight that in red. Why? Because that's one of those red flag words. What does the word double mean? It means that we have to multiply a number times 2. And what's that number that we're multiplying by? Oops, sorry. There we go. What is the number we're multiplying? That's 6 that we started with. So it's the same thing as 2 times 6. We're replacing our variable with the number 6. What's 2 times 6 equal to? 12. Alright, and let's go to the next word, or the next sentence there. It says decrease the number by 4. So when they're talking about the number, that's the number that we get for our answer in the previous line. We got a 12 before. This time it says decrease it by 4. So what do we have to do? First of all, can you identify the key operation word? Did you see the word decrease? Which operation does decrease mean? It means to subtract, right? So we want to know what's 12 minus 4. You see how this works now? So if we have 12 and we take away 4, what do you get? You get 8. Alright, so you're going to use that 8 in the next line. I want you to go ahead and push pause on the video and see if you can get all the way down to the bottom and figure out the magic number. When you're ready and you think you know what it is, then push play. Or if you get stuck, push play. And let's see if you can if you found out the magic number with me. Okay, you're ready to see if you got the magic number correct? I'm going to continue on now and locating those keywords. In the next line it says square this number. Oh, that's one of those red flag words. Did you see it? The word squared. It's a red flag word. It means to take something to the power of 2. So we have to take that 8 and take it to the power of 2. Well, what's 8 to the second power? It's the same thing as 8 times 8, which is equal to 64. Alright, look at the next line. What do you identify as the keywords in the next line? Did you see the words less than? So it says, what is 22 less than the number? Let's see if you got this one right. There's that word than, and I wanted to warn you about that word than. So that means we'd have to take 64, the number that we start with, and the 22, it says less than. So you have to subtract the 22. So that's what we mean by hold that thought and throw it at the end. So 64, take away 22, would be 42. In the next one, it says take half of the answer. There's one of those red flag words, half. What operation is half mean? Divide. So we'd have to take our 42, our 42, and divide it by 2. 42 divided by 2 is 21. In the next line, what's the key word? See the word increase? Increase means to add. So it wants you to add 9 to the original 21. So 21 plus 9 is 30. In the next line, what's the key word? Triple. And which operation is triple? It means multiplication. And what number did you multiply? It's one of those red flag words. You multiplied by 3. Oops, I did that like that, and I probably should have said 3 times the original 30. It's 90. In the next line, we don't have a red flag word, but it is a word that you need to know, the word quotient. Which operation is the word quotient? It means to divide. So we have to take our 90 and we're dividing that by 10. Well, 90 divided by 10 is just 9. In the next line it says find twice the value of the answer. The key word here is twice, and it is one of those red flagged words. It tells you what number to multiply by. We have to multiply the number by 2. So 2 times 9 is 18. If you've made a mistake anywhere up until this point, go ahead and push pause and fix the rest of your problems all the way down. Push play when you're ready to continue. In the next line it says add on 2. Obviously the key word there is add. So we take 18 plus 2 is 20. Did you find the key word in the next line? It says find a quarter of your answer. Quarter's our key word. I don't see any numbers in the whole sentence, but what does quarter imply? Quarter, like 4 quarters, so we have to divide by 4. So our 20, and if we divide it by 4, is equal to 5. And the next line says, find the difference of this number and 3. Keyword is difference here. Now, don't be confused by the word and. Yes, and is sometimes used for addition, but the word difference is going to trump the word and. So if you find the difference, that means subtraction. So the difference of this number and 3 would be the same thing as saying 5 minus 3, which is equal to 2. The next sentence says, cube the answer you get. Again, I read this problem, I'm like, well, where's the number at? How do I know to do with the 2? Well, the key word cube tells you not only that you need to take it to the power of a number, but also what number you need to take the power of. So it says cube it, so that means 2 to the 3rd power. 2 to the 3rd power is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2, which 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. So the answer to that line is 8. Alright, here's the next line, and it's the one that everybody gets messed up on. It says, find 4 more than this number. The key words here are more than. Don't forget the word than. What does that mean when you see the word than? Hold that thought and throw it out the end. Now notice, instead of giving you the numeric number, they spelled out the word for. So we need to hold that thought and throw it out the end. So we take our 8 plus the 4. 8 plus 4 is 12. Had you written 4 plus 8, because it's an addition, you would have gotten the same answer of 12. Alright, we're almost done. In the next line it says divide the number by 4. Obviously the key word is divide, so we'd have to take 12 divided by 4, which is equal to 3. In the next line it says find the product of the number and 3. The key word here is product. So the product of the number, so the 3, and the other 3. 3 times 3 then is 9. The next line it says find the sum of the answer and 8. There's that word sum and the word of at the end of it. This one's going to be pretty basic, so the parentheses aren't going to really matter so much in this one, but in the future when you're going to have to do more than one operation, that word of is going to be key parenthesis. So parenthesis 9 plus 8. I know the parentheses don't matter here, but they will in the future. 9 plus 8 is 17. The next line, it says remove 5. Now notice that word was not on our previous list. If you want to, you can go ahead and add it. But what is the operation do you think the word remove means? Remove is kind of like saying take away. So 17 subtract 5. So it is a subtraction word. And you get it's 12. And says what's the number that remains? The remains is the 12. So that's our final answer. That's the magic number. If you were able to get the magic number, congratulations, you have mastered all the vocabulary words that mean all the different operations. Good job. If you didn't get the number, then please study those operation words. Before I turn you on to your guided practice, let's apply these operation words to write equations. So you may be tasked with write the equation given a verbal expression or verbal phrase. Let's look at focus question number 1. It says 6 less than a number is 14. So we need to write an equation based on this verbal phrase here. First thing you'll do is look for those key words. Do you see any there? Hopefully you recognize less than, and notice that it's not just less, it's less than, so that's going to mean something. and you see the word is. So we know is, oops, sorry, kind of pulled a little too much at once, just a second, let me back that up. We know is means equals. So is what is equal to the 14 is going to be part of our equation that we need to write. And then we see the word less than. Well, remember that when you see the word than, that means whatever number comes before it, you need to hold that thought or stick it at the end. What operation is less, though? It's subtraction, so we need to pull it at the end and subtract 6, so minus 6. But what are we subtracting 6 from? They don't give us a number. In fact, they give us the words a number, and this is typical. You'll see this a lot in verbal equations here. So what you do is you need to create a variable because we don't know what the number is. Now you could use the letter x and say x minus 6 equals 14, and that's perfectly fine. But the other thing I like to do is I usually take the first letter of the word that of whatever I'm trying to represent, in this case a number, and I make that the letter because we can use any letter of the alphabet to represent our variable. So in this case I'm going to use the letter n. N minus 6 is equal to 14. Let's look at question number 2 then. It says triple the sum of 6 and z. Do you recognize the word triple as a red flag word? Think of what operation does triple mean. Do you say multiplication? Okay. Let's wait for a second before we finish writing the equation. See if you recognize any other keywords. How about the word sum of? Do you recall that sum means addition, and when you have that of, then we know the problem's going to have parentheses in it? And the word is, and is means your equals. So if we begin to write the equation, the easy part of that is the is 24. But in front of that, we have two different operations going on. We have multiplication and addition. Let's tackle this addition first because it has the word sum of. That means that we need to add the 6 and the z together. So they tell us which variable they want us to use. And that'll be another type of problem that you'll have as you look at these. They'll tell you which variable they want to use. You don't get to make up your own. So sum of these parentheses, and then we have that triple. Triple the sum of 6 and z. Well, the word triple came before everything else, so that's the same thing with our multiplication. But how do we show multiplying something times something in parentheses? Well, in algebra, you just write it right beside it. And remember that triple means to multiply it by 3. So that's the equation you would write. 3 times the quantity of 6 plus z is equal to 24, or the triple the sum of 6 and z is 24. Now I know these are going to be challenging for you. So your guided practice is actually a little bit of a game. Let me pull it up for you. Alright, I'm going to do one of the guided practice problems with you, and then you can do the rest and self-check and correct afterwards. To play this game or to use this page here, you are trying to identify the correct algebraic formula or equation for each one of the verbal phrases in here. So let's look at the first one. It says 4 more than n is 9. So the key words here are more than and is. Remember that the word than means to hold that thought. The is 9 is equal to 9, but you would write n plus 4 because the hold that thought means that 4 needs to go after your next number. Hold that thought and stick it on the end. So find that equation up above. Do you see where it says n plus 4 is equal to 9? Sure, right here. So what you will do, that's the letter V. You would write the letter V right here up on the line. And you're trying to find out, C.S. Lewis is a well-known author of the series Chronicles of Narnia, as well as his full name. What does the initial C.S. stand for? So we're trying to find out what C.S. and C.S. Lewis is equal to. Alright, good luck on your guided practice, and then check the self-check and correct to see if you have the right name. Good luck.